Hello and welcome to another episode of the Modern Mumma. Today I have with me Devi Raval, who I have the pleasure of calling my baby sister-in-law. Hi Devi, how are you?
I'm great. I'm really good, thank you. And so excited to be on here because you and I have chats like this all the
Yes, we
time.
do.
It's just an amazing opportunity for me to be able to be on this amazing podcast
Yeah,
with you.
well, the reason I especially wanted to speak to you today is you have been a new mum, and our little angel Sanvi is 10 days away from becoming one. So I think it's a
Yeah.
really interesting chat to have with you about your first year of motherhood. The highs, the lows, the challenges, the expectations you had, and, everything about it. So tell me a little bit about yourself first.
Do you know, I don't think of myself as myself anymore. That's going to take a little bit of. Um, so I'm one of three sisters. I'm the youngest, the baby in the family as such. Um, because we are talking about motherhood, I guess I'll touch on that side of it. Kind of growing up, out of the three of us, I was probably the least broodiest.
Okay.
So I wasn't one of those who, I mean, I found babies cute, but I wasn't the one who would always go for the baby kind of at any events or anything like that. I'm happy to look after them, but then when they get to that toddler age of talking and wanting to interact, I'd always be a little bit like, if you've ever seen that episode of Friends where there's that Gavin guy and he kind of, meets Emma and goes to handshake Emma, the
Yeah.
baby, Rachel's baby, and goes, "Hi, I'm Gavin Mitchell," or whatever. I was a bit like that. Um, in fact, it was my middle sister who was like the broodiest, and it was just apparent she would be an amazing mom. I used to worry a little bit because I suppose it's expected of you, isn't it? Like as a woman, and I kind of kept thinking, well, what's missing? Am I ever gonna want kids or not? So yeah, that's kind of like what it was like growing up. Um, but I am one of three, so I am used to being around quite a lot of family. I did. I spent a fair amount of my teenage years, 6 years, growing up in India around my grandparents and 14 cousins.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm definitely used to kind of a big family and I loved it. I absolutely loved the craziness of it, but I never really stopped and thought about what that might mean for me in the
Mm.
future.
And you said you spent some time in India. Was that a choice you had, or was that something you wanted to do, or was that just circumstances that took you there?
I'm going to say yes and no to the choice. Yes, because I was asked by my mom if it's something I wanted to do. No, because I was 10 years old and thought India was about as far as Manchester to Leeds.
Okay, yeah. No, quite, not quite.
It was not quite. Turns out by the time you get to Mumbai, if you start crying, they can't exactly take you back. It was a little bit of circumstance, being the youngest of three, not kind of coming from lots of money. My parents had to work really
Mm.
hard. And because of the age gap between me and my sisters, so those two have a couple of years between them. But there's about 3.5 years between me and my middle sister. So when you're growing up, that's a significant amount of time, of years between
Yeah.
you. And my mom used to find me always playing on my own with my imaginary friends. Don't worry, I've been checked out, I'm normal. Apparently, a lot of children have
They
imaginary
do, and
friends.
my youngest had one as well. His name was Jeff. Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go. Yep, I also had an imaginary pony. Anyway, we won't go further into that
But that's
conversation.
good.
But she
Having
used
imagine, see,
to.
now imaginary play is really good, but back then people used to think quite not quite
Yeah,
right.
used to question you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I was clearly ahead of the times. But yeah, my mom used to find me on my own quite a lot, and she was just kind of concerned for what that might mean in terms of me growing up and maybe getting into the wrong crowd, that kind of
Okay.
thing. Um, so all my mom's family are in India, and so yeah, she just kind of came to me with this proposal and said, "Well, how would you feel about going there for a while and just meeting that side of the family, studying there? You know, if you don't like it and you're really finding it challenging, I'll bring you back. And I trusted
Mm.
her 100%. She absolutely would have. So I said yes, and off I embarked on an adventure that was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I'm obviously speaking up to the point of labour, the hardest thing I've done in my life. And one of the things that really shaped the person that I am, actually, definitely, yeah, it was a turning point in me becoming
Mm.
me.
Of going to India, and how many? You said you spent 6 years there.
6 years there. So I went when I was nine and a
Right.
half, which was really scary, kind of going there on a flight by yourself with an air hostess
Oh,
watching
so you
over
did
you.
actually fly on your own? Your parents or your mum didn't come to
I
drop you?
actually, no, she wasn't able
Wow.
to. So it was literally a case of being sent off at the gate. I remember actually, it's funny what you do remember. Um, at the airport, like I was a Wimpy girl, not
Uh-huh.
McDonald's, Wimpy, and then went on to Burger King. And I remember that's the meal that I had, and I thought, oh, this is a treat. Like something serious is going on here. Like I'm getting a Burger King, and I think it really hit me. Obviously, I said bye to her kind of behind the
Mm.
screen, and I couldn't understand why she was as upset as she was because, of course, I didn't understand how far I was actually
Yeah.
going, and the fact that I wouldn't see her for 6 months. And before that point, I hadn't been away from her more than one night. So yeah, it really hit me. I think by the time, in fact, we didn't even get to Mumbai. We were probably like a couple of hours out of Heathrow, and it hit me that this isn't what I thought
Oh.
it would be. Um, but you know, it was really tough. More so because once I got there and met people I'd never met before, apart from my granddad, it then involved me kind of then going to boarding school there as well, which was even further than my
Oh,
grandparents'
okay.
house. So I was actually alone. But yeah, I came back when I was 16. Things got much better. Like the first couple of years, I'd say were really challenging.
Mm.
But by the time I was probably 12, I really started to enjoy it. And yeah, I just started to find it a really rich experience to the point where I didn't want to come back when my parents wanted me to come
It's a
back.
different life, totally,
Um,
isn't it? It is actually quite a
it
nice
really is.
life if you embrace it and you just go with the flow of it.
You have
Yeah.
to go with the flow. It is literally like being carried down a river, and if you don't just pick up your legs and just go literally with the flow, and you fight against it, you kind of panic. And it just, yeah, it became one of the most rewarding things in my life. I learned so much about culture and religion and people, and myself as well. And then I came back when I was
So did you make
16.
any friends? Did you still have any friends that you made out there?
Oh
You
gosh,
do?
yeah,
Oh,
definitely. People are so open
yes.
there, like everybody is your
Mm.
friend, even though you just chat to them for five
Yes.
minutes. The challenge I had is at that time you didn't have social
Mm.
media. In fact, I remember when I came back and started A levels, emails were just about coming around, and that's when I opened my first email account, which was Yahoo. And Pegasus was the emails. I'm not sure
I
if you
do.
remember.
I do.
Pegasus was the email account. So it was difficult to stay in touch. But now, because of WhatsApp
Yes.
and everything, there's been a lot of reconnecting and reunions and things like
Oh, that sounds fantastic. As a childhood, I mean, whether we'll come on to that, but now you have your own child. Now, Sanvi was born about 11 months ago, and you said today actually was her due date. She was born on the
that. Yeah,
10th of June.
instead of 31st
Yeah,
of
but
May.
before we get to Sanvi and your motherhood this past year, earlier you said you weren't the most broodiest one. So was it obviously you chose to bring her into this world, but how did you feel about having a child, having been married and then embarking on, because you said earlier also it's expected of you, isn't it, in society?
Yes.
How did that make you feel? Did you feel pressured?
The I would say in terms of my state of mind and how I felt, when I got married and how I felt at that point is very different to how I felt before actually even trying for her, because I went through a really, really kind of like just a really fantastic learning journey for myself to get to that point. Yes, it did feel like a lot of pressure, and I think I'd accepted it because you don't know any better. It's what you've seen for generations. Okay, so especially growing up in India, it's like that is the norm. Okay, so first you're told to study, 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 and just focus on your studies and don't pay so much attention to your friends and no boyfriends and all of this. Just study, 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 right? And then you finish your studying and you're like, now what? Okay, well now we need to, if you're lucky, find you a job. If not, now we need to think about settling you down. Okay. And then what? Okay, now you get married. And then what? Now you have children. Then what? Now you have another one. And it's just kind of almost like it's planned out for you. Um, when I think I accepted it because it was a bit like, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I met Vips, your cousin. I met Vips purely naturally. I wasn't looking to settle down. I'm not one of these. In fact, I'd never even been on a date before I met him. I wasn't the dating kind. I never went on any dating websites. I was very much a believer in things happen for a reason. Still am. So we just met by chance twice, actually, at a wedding where we kind of had mutual family and stuff. So we met once at the wedding, and this tells you so much about what your state of mind plays in your choices. I don't believe that something will happen if you don't want it to kind of happen. The first time we met, I wasn't going through a very good time, I wasn't feeling great about myself. I wasn't sure about settling down or not, had a lot going on. And for that reason, I didn't really pay much attention to him. In fact, the only thing I do remember from that first meeting is I thought, who is this guy who was commanding the attention of the entire table?
Yep, that's Vipul.
Exactly. And of course, we were on the singles and cousins table, right. Together. But I didn't pay much attention. And then a few months later, we happened to bump into each other again. But at that point in time, I was in a much better, clearer headspace. And it's so crazy what part that plays in it, because I welcomed that chance encounter with open arms. And we just kind of, we were both the designated drivers. So we went for a coffee while everybody else was drinking their champagne because we couldn't. And we just kind of got to chatting. And funny enough, the only reason why we're probably kind of here today is because, of course, Facebook was the thing then. So he was like, are you going to kind of add me on Facebook? I was like, of course not. I'm not going to make like a first move. Like, you can add me. And he's like, I'll never remember your name. So his cousin came along, took my name card off the table, popped it into his front pocket, and went, there you go. Because I think he was just sick of the flirting all night. So it definitely was love. It wasn't arranged in any way.
But at that time, was it, I say pressure in inverted commas, was the conversation about you getting married or finding somebody going on sort of in the background with your family and stuff?
Yes. Yeah, there was a little bit of pressure there, but I think that's more, I can't say it was actually from family. My parents have always been very, very liberal and supportive that way. They haven't been like, oh, I need to get you married or anything. I think it was from myself, because I thought, I'm never going to find somebody who is on the same wavelength as I am. Especially having that combination of culture in me, where I've grown up partly in India, partly here. So it's quite a different kind of dynamic. And I was just concerned I wasn't going to find anybody on my wavelength, with the kind of qualities I wanted. And then in walked, and if I'm honest with you, he had more of what I wanted and then some. I didn't have a lot of boxes to tick, but what I had was really important to me. And he just blew me away. He absolutely blew me away. I mean, we met in an April. He proposed to me the next April, and I was actually more a case of, what took you so long, like, I think 3 months in, I had decided.
He was the one.
But of course, you don't tell the guy that, right?
Well, it depends. My case is different.
Maybe we should do a reverse podcast one time. But yeah, we met one April, got engaged the next April, and got married the next May, which some people would consider really quick, but actually for us it felt really slow.
Mm.
Um, so I'd say that was definitely, if anything, we just couldn't wait to spend our lives together, especially because I was in Leeds and he was in London, and all our dates were in Birmingham.
Well, he was not far from there. Oh no, he would have studied. He would have finished studying by then, I guess. He was in Aston.
He
Yeah,
had, yes, it would be a case. So, I mean, our first day, I'll be honest with you, he did drive from London to Leeds after work to take me out to dinner and then drive all the way back.
that was true
If
love.
that doesn't seal
That
the
was
deal,
true
I don't
love.
know what does.
So fast forwarding 9 years into your marriage, was it not? Has it been about 9 years or 8 years?
Yeah, 9 years. Just May the
Yeah.
12th gone actually.
And
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Sanvi comes along.
Yes, and changes everything.
Absolutely. But before that, can I just ask you, when you found out you were pregnant, how did you feel? What was the reaction? What was the emotions?
Unbelievable, because by that point it was something we both really wanted. Not how it started off. As I said, I kind of went through a journey, and so did Vips. You know, a lot of people always think about, when it comes to babies, I think a lot of people always think about the woman and you know, the mother and how she feels, not necessarily the dad.
Yes.
And they go through similar emotions
Oh,
too.
they do.
You
They
know?
do, because this is a big responsibility. There's another person to take care of. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's an equal relationship and a marriage where you're both contributing, etc. But there is that thing. There's that extra person, and it's like, yeah, and you're right. We do actually forget about the men and how they're feeling. It's all
Yeah.
about the woman, because you're carrying the child.
Yeah. And if anything, that's what's so overwhelming, because they go from no baby to one day baby, you know, whereas we get to experience the entire journey.
Yes.
So it's not something that just happens overnight for us. We get that kind of easing into it. They don't.
Yes. And also, when that baby comes along, all your attention is given to that child. Whereas before, it's just been two of you. And you've had time.
Well, two of us and two cats.
In your case, yes, 2 cats. But the attention's been there. He's had undivided attention from you, you know, and then there's a baby. And you haven't really got time, especially in the early days. You know, you've really then got to make the effort and make sure you're giving each other that time. So how was your pregnancy?
The pregnancy was actually really fun for me, but again, I'm a firm believer in, it's your state of mind.
Yes.
It's how you see something as to how you experience it. And I do, and I know you and I have had conversations about this before. I genuinely believe the reasons behind you wanting a baby really do have a knock-on effect in how you feel about the pregnancy and how you feel about being a mom. For the two of us, we started off with, well, society dictates. And then when it came to it, and first of all, you know, going into marriage, it's not, you know, all the Indian movies finish at the couple getting married. You know?
They don't go beyond that.
No, it's like that is the destination. And then we quickly realized marriage isn't the brochure people have been advertising to us. It's actually the beginning of a lot of things. You know, it's not happily ever after. It's how do we make our happily ever after? You know, it's the journey. So because of that, we started to question back then, actually, well, when do we want to think about starting a family? Which brought us on to, do we, you know? And I was the first one to question, going, I don't know, I've never really thought about this. And I've got to say, Vips, my husband is amazing, because he's just very different to kind of like generally how society kind of paints things. So he will always hear me out and say, what do you think and what do you feel? So we basically went through a journey where I don't know if I actually want that. You know, I need a good reason for it. And then I came back going, okay, let's do it. And then he was like, well, I don't know if I want to go down that route, you know? So we were kind of went through our own individual journeys, and then kind of came together. And when it feels right for us, and when we have a good reason to want to bring a life into this world and watch it grow and develop, and, you know, and kind of like nurture it, that's when we'll kind of go ahead. And we reached that point, and so, you know, it was very much a wanted pregnancy, very, very much so. So when I found out, It was unbelievable. I remember exactly where I was, and I was traveling away with work. I was actually all the way in Bridgend
Oh,
in a Premier Inn, getting ready for work. And I just, just the entire world stood still for what felt like forever, but I think it was 5 minutes. And you just immediately everything changed.
yes.
You're so aware of your body. You're so aware of. It's going to sound crazy, but you suddenly feel so afraid of everything.
No, that doesn't sound crazy. I also remember, because there's a life inside you, and that is scary.
It's an awesome
Yeah,
responsibility.
absolutely. And you might have heard my introduction episode, but when I was actually doing my midwifery stint, when I trained as a nurse,
Yeah.
I met that the midwife I was shadowing was actually pregnant at the time, and she said, actually, you worry about conception. If you're actually able to conceive, then you find out you're pregnant, and then you worry about how am I going to get through this pregnancy. So it's not crazy, but and I'm sure it's something that everybody goes through at that moment in time. And then it's getting through 9 months. You've got your 3 months of worrying whether you're going to carry the child and hold the child, and then there's a sickness and all the bits you get. And I guess end of second, third trimester maybe is where you start to enjoy it.
For about a week, and then you start thinking about the labour.
Yeah, then there's that. There's you never stop thinking, you never stop worrying, you never stop.
It is absolutely a journey. I remember when, especially when we decided we wanted to kind of take this step, and we were trying and stuff. I remember whenever I'd meet women who were pregnant, I'd be so happy for them, but they'd always have a little bit of a worried look, like they're holding back their happiness. And I remember always thinking, oh my God, you should be on top of the world. Like, you're going to have a baby soon. But when I was in that place, I got it. Totally understood it. You are happy. You are absolutely elated, but you're so afraid to be happy because you're constantly thinking, but there's a million different things that could go wrong.
And you don't realise that until you are in that actual position.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I guess we were in a couple of months of lockdown, were we not? It was towards the end of your pregnancy.
We went into lockdown when I was around 7.
Yes. And how was that when it came to your hospital visits and all of that? I mean, it must have changed from the beginning to that point.
Yeah, definitely. It was scary because even if, and I'm generally a positive person, you're kind of going, it'll be fine. And then kind of course, medical professionals have a way of being more factual than kind of positive, and you can quite easily be quite scared by a lot of things. And, we didn't have a lot of facts then either. There was a lot of hearsay, a lot of ignorance. Yes. The hospital appointments, I was only allowed to go myself. So my husband could no longer be there for scans and things like that. But, you have to be practical. Yes. We were lucky enough. I mean, there's a lot of couples, bless them, who've had their whole pregnancy through lockdown. We were very fortunate that he was there for the first scan. He was there for another couple of scans before all this happened, and he couldn't be there any longer. So hospital appointments kind of became a little bit more, I had to be more independent, but that didn't bother me because I was always a case of I can drive myself, I can do all this, it's fine. That didn't bother me. However, just when lockdown happened, not being able to kind of go to the NCT classes that we signed up to and having to do it all online, which I appreciate that, they kind of at least did that. But it's very different to actually being there and seeing things being done, and meeting people.
That's the thing, because a lot of people, through NCT, they meet some amazing friends, and the children, because you're all obviously expecting around the same time, and they become lifelong friends, which, you may not have been able to experience in this,
Yeah,
climate.
exactly. I mean, we still actually formed quite a
Well,
good group, so we
that's
kept our
great.
WhatsApp group going, and we've been there, we every couple of days
Yeah.
checking on each other and chat. So, but it's very different when you actually physically meet somebody and you've got that connection. It's kind of like meeting them online. I'm sure dating websites have the same issue.
Yep.
um, but you make the best of the situation. There are worse things in the
Of
world
course.
than not getting
Mm.
that support. So that didn't really bother me too much. It was a bit of a challenge, but you just deal with these hurdles as you
Yes.
go. My toughest time was probably when I was around, I think I was about coming up to 8 months pregnant, and my husband kind of fell quite badly ill. And it was literally a little while after lockdown. Tests weren't available at that point, so we didn't even know if it was COVID or not. But he was very ill, so he was having high fevers, at one point measured near 42. He basically didn't have, he was just in and out of sleep, basically. So being that pregnant, I had to keep going up and
Yeah.
down, checking his temperature, making sure he's got his meds, going to the pharmacy because everything was closed, getting to the pharmacy, getting him the electrolytes that he needed and stuff, and not knowing, because we didn't have the knowledge
No,
at
we
that point
didn't.
either. So I didn't know what to do. I felt quite isolated at that point because I didn't really know what to do. So that was probably what was more challenging, because I was like, oh my God, I've got this child on the way, and
Mm.
what do I do? What do I do if he does have, like COVID or something else? And yeah, you suddenly feel more vulnerable than you would if you were on your own.
Yes. Yeah. And I do remember he was very ill, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then he got better, and then I think Sanvi was born. He was much better. Was he able to
Yeah.
be at the birth?
Yeah, absolutely. His illness, like, he was probably in bed for about a week, but it took him a month to recover thereafter, and he'd lost quite a bit of weight. But after that, so by the end of April, beginning of May, he was actually back to his usual
Mm.
self, and yeah, definitely back to his usual self. And if anything, because of my husband was one of those who, being self-employed, didn't have work, so he was at home. Um, he loves that. We are very much a case of just take things as they come. Everything happens for a
Yeah.
reason. And he really did enjoy the time. And do you know what? Like, I was grateful because actually, like, he cooked for me and everything. Throughout May, he was doing everything. Like, I was on my bouncy ball pretty much all of the day. And he was making me all sorts of culinary delights, being inspired by come dine with me and stuff. So I was very, very well looked after throughout May.
Oh, that's nice, and that's a blessing in disguise, really, because otherwise, normally you
Yeah,
wouldn't have had that.
no, and normally, actually, I probably would have been working right till the end.
Yes.
But then, of course, I was working from home for a while when lockdown happened. But then we were furloughed by kind of middle of April. So although you kind of worry financially and stuff, again, you can make money again.
Yes.
But you just don't get that
Yeah.
time back.
Absolutely.
So yeah, in
It
hindsight,
all worked out for the
it was,
best.
yeah, yeah, we were living the high life.
in lockdown. That is possible.
He was enjoying his whiskies, and I was just enjoying twisters. I went through a twister phase at that point.
Oh,
If you remember, we had really
good weather.
really strong
Yep.
heat waves.
Yep.
Yeah, towards the end of May. Great for
Not
everyone.
for
Not brilliant when
heavily pregnant.
not when you're overdue.
No. So D-Day came. D-Day arrived.
Yeah.
10 days from the time it should have been, and
Yeah.
you had a natural birth, or
Yeah, ish. So it's
or should I ask?
I
Should I
always,
ask? Hang on. Let me rephrase that. Did your birth go as planned, as you had planned it?
when does it ever? Do you know what? Like, one thing I have learned, I think, before even becoming, actually, from when I was pregnant, like, I've learned slowly to literally go with
Mm-hmm.
the flow and just have an open mind and just trust and have faith, to the point where my birthing plan my birthing plan just said, whatever you need to do.
Oh,
That is the conversation I had with my midwife. I was like, look, I've listened to hypnobirthing things. I mean, I couldn't go to a course because of lockdown and stuff. So I listened to the tapes. Of course, you don't actually know what's coming because it doesn't matter how much somebody
Nope.
describes it to you, nothing can prepare you. I'm really sorry for moms to be for the first time if you're out there listening to this, but nothing can prepare you for it. You've just got to trust.
Absolutely, absolutely. You cannot prepare for it, no matter what.
No.
And
So when I think my midwife loved me for this because she was obviously used to a lot of people going, no, I want to do natural and I want to do hypnobirth and that. And I was like, she was like, so have you thought about it? I was like, whatever they need to do, whatever they need to do to get that baby out safe. And she was like, that's so refreshing to hear. I was like, anything they need to do, like it doesn't matter what I tell you now, you need to listen to me then. So that was the plan, which is let's just see.
Or they need to make a decision if things aren't going the way it should be.
Exactly. Other than that, Vips and I, we've always been a strong team, so we had talked about this, and we went by the rule of 3, which is if I ask him that I need something, if I ask him 3 times, then it gets done.
Right.
So if I said it once and I was like, right, just give me the epidural, then he's not gonna. It has to be 3 times to know that I really mean this kind of thing. So. And he knows me and he knows my threshold for pain. So it's just that trust that you have in each other. So I kind of handed it over to him. He was my birthing plan.
No pressure, Ripple, no pressure. Just do the right thing.
Everything kicked off. So she came Wednesday afternoon, but everything kicked off Monday morning. I'm just going to let that land for a moment. It started Monday morning and she came Wednesday afternoon.
Hey.
Yeah, I remember I woke up and I turned around to Vips and I said, I think it started, to which there was silence. And I thought, is he awake? And I went, Vips? And he was like, yeah, no, I heard you. And I'm thinking...
And he's thinking, oh shit, here goes.
Exactly. Exactly. He did tell me afterwards, after it all kind of it happened and everything, he did tell me, he goes, when you said that, I kind of did think, oh, I'm not going to say it, you know. And I was like, he was like, I was just thinking it can stay in there a little longer. We didn't know what we were having, girl or boy. He goes, it can stay in there a little longer. I'm like, it's easy for you to say.
Very easy.
You know, I think 9.5 months is enough.
More than enough.
So basically I was contracting slowly throughout the day, but it would slow down and then pick up in the evening. So basically I hadn't slept from Monday morning till Wednesday evening. I kind of contracted throughout the night. So I said to him, look, you better get some rest because one of us needs to sleep. I'm just going to be bouncing away here, watching all the pre-recorded movies I had that would make me laugh and take my mind off the pain. And yeah, Tuesday night, basically, contractions got quite strong. And I kind of went from, literally within minutes, I can do this, to, you need to take me right now, I need some help. And he didn't ask me a second time. So we got to the hospital just past midnight for Wednesday. Everything kind of, you will know, and everybody who's gone through this will know what this feels like when you have to keep stopping on the way, you know, to kind of brace yourself for another contraction. In fact, the motorway we were going to take was closed.
Oh no.
We're on our way, and all I could hear Vic going is, oh, and I won't finish what he said. And I was like, what? He goes, nothing, it's okay. And from the corner of my eye, I could see the barricades, the motorway was closed. And he was like, don't worry, I've got another route. So we get there, and I'm thinking, this is surely, like, I've just got another hour or so to go. Get checked out, and she's like, yeah, you're 2 centimeters. And I'm like, what? So that was a bit of a shock to them.
Did they send you back home?
They would have, but they were so kind, and they saw that I was not going without a baby. In fact, Vips, I was pretty out of it. I don't remember a lot of this, but Vips told me that's what I kept saying. I'm not leaving without a baby. I'm not leaving without a baby.
Oh, it was a long way to go. 2 centimetres still.
A long way to go. It was fairly smooth. We got it through all naturally up to the point where I was pushing. I was pushing for about 2 hours.
Oh,
But she had her arm underneath her head like she was
all
lounging.
right.
So she wasn't distressed or anything, but because of the position, she couldn't quite
Yeah,
make it
make it
kind
out.
of like make the
Yeah.
bend. Yeah, so they had to make an executive decision to kind of push it a little bit that she came out and kind of just perform a C-section. So not an emergency C-section, but
Right.
unplanned.
Right. Yeah. But she was out safely and she was well, and that's, I think.
She was out safely. She was out with her eyes wide open, looking around. In fact, the surgeon themselves, like the surgeon was like, I've never seen a newborn baby so alert.
And with so much hair. She was born
Oh my
with.
God, the
Yes.
hair. Oh my God, yes. Yeah, yeah. She still doesn't let me keep clips or rubber bands in her hair. It's just
Oh, it's
wild.
brilliant.
She's like one of the Beatles, honestly.
So she's now born on the 12th of June. At what time was she born?
10th of June.
Sorry.
10th of June. She was born at 3 minutes past 1 in the afternoon.
And that's where your first day of motherhood, real motherhood, started. That journey began.
Yes.
So how...
And boy, was it a wake-up call.
I was going to say, and how did that feel? Seeing that little baby in your arms that you've carried for 9.5 months.
Do you know, it was I was quite out of it because obviously they had to put me under. I was conscious, but they had to obviously like put a lot of things inside me to be able to do the C-section at short notice. We also didn't know what we were having, so I said that I want Dad to tell me. You know, I want my husband to tell me. So I took little Sandy out and showed her to my husband, and there was silence for a few seconds. I'm like, hello, what do we have? To the point where the surgeon was like, you do know what this means, Mr. Raval. And he's like, yeah, I know, I get it. I know what it means. I'm taking a second. Because I was convinced I was having a boy, and I convinced him I was having a boy.
Oh, okay.
But he always thought it was a girl. So I guess, you know, you'd have to ask him how his world changed as well.
But inside he's mostly thinking, I knew it was going to be a girl.
Yeah, definitely. I've never lived that down, ever. But yeah, it's for me, it was when we were looking at each other when we first heard her little cry, and God, does it take your breath away? It's unreal, the most
isn't it?
Beautiful sound you've ever heard, and you recognize it. It's so weird.
Yes.
It's like you know this voice that you've never heard before. But they popped her on me, but I said, no, it's okay, Vips, you hold her, because I was kind of being stitched up and I was kind of out of it. And I was kind of in and out of kind of, I was semi-lucid. So they brought me out into recovery, and because of COVID, like we were only able to, the three of us, to be together for about 15 minutes. And then Vips had to go and I was taken to the recovery ward. I'll tell you when motherhood actually hit me. So when I was taken to the ward, I was in and out, in and out. So they said, what we'll do is we'll just kind of take her away so you can have some rest. But even in that state, drugged up in kind of some kind of daze, you know, that I was pulled out of that by the smallest cry of hers from way down in the corridor. I just knew it was her. You can hear, and even now, like I think you just never sleep a deep sleep ever again. Like even now, her room is underneath ours on a different floor, and no matter what deep sleep I'm in, our door closed, her door closed, I can hear a cough. It's so crazy. But yeah, I could hear her, and I remember, I mean, it was so difficult for me to move, but I remember asking the nurse to give her to me partway through the night. Because she was stirring, and I gave her skin to skin, and do you know, I just spent hours. I don't even know how long it was, but it was dark one moment, there was daylight the next. I was just staring at her, you know, and her breathing, and every so often she'd open her eyes and look at me, and she'd, you know, just kind of like move her fingers on my skin, and oh my God, well, you know, by sunrise, I was in love. I was in love so hard. It was just indescribable.
That connection, that bond. It's amazing, isn't it? It's again, it's something you've got to experience to understand it,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I just kept looking at her, and you kind of you're trying to marry the two up, going, was it you inside me? Was it you doing those
Yeah.
kicks and those somersaults and that kind of thing? And you kind of look at her and you go, oh my God, I recognize you, but how's that possible? Because I've never seen you before. And it's just, yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Just, yeah, and you know what? I did it for weeks after. In fact, why am I lying? I still do it now, where I just kind of like I just stare at her, like I'll be holding her, or she'll be snoozing or sitting, and you just look at her in kind of
And you
awe.
do, yeah. Can't, it's still
And Vip's
don't
like,
believe it. It's like, is this real?
yeah, and Vip's being kind of a nerd that he is like 2 cells, baby, just for 2 cells, and I'm like, oh my God, way to ruin the magic. But hey, that's why I love him. You should hear his rendition of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. It takes all the magic out of it. He actually goes on to tell her what stars are.
Oh, okay. We'll have to listen to that one then.
Yep.
You'll have to send me a recording of that one, a video of that one.
I'm so going to do that for you.
So how long did you stay in hospital with her before you came home?
Not as long as I should have.
Right.
I was, maybe because it's COVID or whatever, but I wasn't actually looked after as well as I should have been. Something that a lot of the moms on my NCT group also experienced. To say I had a C-section, which, do you know what? I think when it comes to having a baby and birthing and stuff, quite often, whether it's society or magazines or whatever you want to call it, I think it's kind of brushed under the carpet like it's no big deal, but it is. You've just had major surgery.
Yeah.
You know?
I again, with my midwifery stint, you get the experience of watching a natural birth and watching. I watched a natural birth and a cesarean. So I watched this natural birth, and this woman was absolutely screaming and effing and blying at her husband, and the nurse is going, midwife's going, she doesn't really mean it. And she goes, yes, I do, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm like 18, 19 watching this, yeah, in training. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is horrendous. And then the next one I watch is a cesarean, out comes the baby, and then the surgeon stitching her up. And he was a little bit of an arrogant little so-and-so. I can say that now, 25 years later. And he said, you see all this? That's fat globules. Women have that. We men don't have that.
Oh my God.
And I just looked at him. I was a young, inexperienced nurse training, and I just didn't say anything. But I looked, this baby popping out, being stitched up looked really simple to me. And I thought, oh, this is a good way of having a baby. I've had 2 natural births, but from what I hear, it is no fun having a cesarean.
It's totally different. Well, my sister, my eldest sister, who has had both. So she had a natural birth with a second. Unfortunately, it was an emergency C-section, but it was a C-section, and obviously I can't compare to because I've only had one. But it is so different. It is major surgery, but I think as soon as you say, if you actually said, oh, I had surgery, like 10 months ago, I've had surgery, I had my abdomen's cut open, people would see it differently. You say I had a C-section, it's like, oh, that's it, like, oh, well, you can get to the gym. Okay, maybe not straight away. Maybe you need to leave it for 5 weeks. It's like, I mean, I still have numb areas, and this is all the stuff people don't tell you. You don't read in magazines. All the little things that you learn going, that's to do with pregnancy. That one's to do with pregnancy. And I still have numb areas that I can't feel. I still can't, if I hold in my muscles, there's still some areas on my abdomen that I can't pull in. I started going back to the gym. I did make a decision that I'm not putting pressure on myself. I'm going to do it when it feels right for me, and when it's right for Sanvi. I'm not rushing back to the gym. I'm not going to say I'm not exactly celebrating my body, but it's gone through a tremendous thing. It's created another human being,
absolutely,
and delivered it out.
Yep.
Like I've got to. I think we can be really critical of ourselves, going, "Oh, I don't want stretch marks. I don't want this. I don't want this flabby bit here." Like, but you've created another human being. If you had, I don't know, if you had battled with a shark and lived to tell the tale, I'm sure you'd be showing your scar off at every
Mm.
party, going, "Look, yeah, look, I've got the battle scars to show." But when it comes to childbirth, we want to hide it.
Mm. But it's
It's so
society and
strange.
social media again, isn't it? It's that,
It
yeah.
really is. This kind of had a baby, and here I am now out shopping, and here's the
Mm.
baby. And it's like, I mean, you obviously know in our culture, they say to not even take the baby outdoors for about 6
I was
weeks.
just going to come on to that actually. Yes. So in
Yeah.
our culture, I mean, the first birth, where it is practical, it is not practical with the second birth, let me tell you. But I'm not sure what you did, but after the birth of my first one, I went to my mum's and I stayed there for 3 months, and I got thoroughly looked after, pampered. I didn't have to lift a finger, and everybody just looked after the baby. I just breastfed and passed it on, And then with the second one, and the reason for that 3 months is what your body has been through. You have been through
Yeah.
a major event, which is giving birth, we have special food that our parent mums make for us, and is it like healing? It's healing food, and
Yes.
at the time you don't understand it, but actually they're like, no, this is going to see you in good stead for the future of your back and all this. And then you decide to have another baby, and again, they're like going, oh, you're going to come over, and I'm like, no, because I've got a baby, a child toddler at nursery. It's really not practical. You need to come to me.
Yeah.
I still need to get in the car and go and drop this child. Oh no, but you can't go. You can't take the baby. And I remember my neighbour across the road. She'd had her child, her youngest and my youngest, a couple of months apart. And she came over, and I was lying in the bed, because that's what I was being looked after, with my youngest Samir in the cot. The other one was running around most probably. And she said to me, Nishma, are you not well? What's the matter? And I said, oh no, I'm just resting. Because she was up and about and out, like you said. And I remember my mum working, she used to work in Waitrose, and she would see women leaving the hospital, having given birth, and doing their shopping on the way home. And she would say, how old is the baby? And they would say, oh, she was born this morning. And she'd come home and she'd go, oh my God. I mean, she couldn't believe it, because that's not what's done in our culture.
No. But another thing that I've definitely learned through becoming a mother is, I really don't judge. Each to their own. If they feel fit and well to do that, although I am concerned for the baby, suddenly coming out into the world, and then they've got, this kind of like overload of sensory overload going on. But if you feel well enough, like, fair enough. But as long as you don't feel that's expected, and what I'm hearing more and more of is that kind of thing of, oh yeah, you got to, and this is sometimes from moms going, oh yeah, you've got to get straight onto the gym and stuff, and you kind of feel pressurized, and
you shouldn't have to.
It's just,
it's what's right for you,
no,
your body and your baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know, and if anything, I think I actually put on weight after having her, just because I guess just going through. I mean, when you're breastfeeding, you will get really hungry.
Oh yes.
And of course, all the food, like you said, that we're given is all about strengthening and making sure you've got enough calories,
to produce the
because you
milk.
have to pass it on to your baby. Yeah, exactly. But I just kind of didn't worry about it. Didn't let it get
Good
to
for
me.
you.
And then just and I've got to say, like, again, it's my husband. He's amazing. Like, he makes me feel good about myself. So never did I see myself as, oh, oh, my stomach's really flabby or this and that and stuff. He'd always make me feel good about it. And then when I was ready to go to the gym, he was very supportive of that as well. So I started just kind of April, but actually I've lost. I'm getting to a good level of fitness, losing the weight, building muscle tone and everything. And you know what my win is? Before she's turned one, this was 2 weeks ago. Before she's turned one, I got into teams that were pre-pregnancy.
Well done, you.
I mean, I'm not going to tell you what was hanging over the bed.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. But like you say, it's that again. It's pressure, and there shouldn't be, because each and every person is different. Their circumstances are different. You just don't know what's going on. You know, even with emotionally with a new mum. You know.
Oh God, yes, absolutely. Do you know? I don't even remember the first week, really. We came home. So yeah, we came home basically. I told you, because I wasn't being looked after very much. Like, I obviously had a catheter because I had a C-section, so you know things were numb and that. Nobody was coming to check my catheter was full. Nobody would come to give me Sanvi for feeds, and I couldn't move an inch. I was in agony. It felt like I was being stabbed all over each time. But yeah, I was determined. I was like, we need to go home because that's the only place we're going to be looked after. Also, because of COVID, once Vips left, he wasn't allowed to come and see us until we were discharged.
Oh, really?
That was it. Yeah. Nobody was even checking if I had something to eat.
Oh.
So I hadn't eaten since Tuesday afternoon. I had a Wednesday lunchtime, and I didn't get any food until Wednesday night.
Oh.
So I really wasn't looked after. So I basically said, what do you need to see in order for me to go home? Because I want to be discharged. And they told me, they said, well, we need to see you can feed her. Nobody came to teach me how to feed her. I just kind of went by things that I'd seen, you know, like, so yeah, nobody came to actually teach me of how to hold her and stuff, especially when I'd had a C-section. So in fact, what I did is I syringed colostrum because I couldn't hold her because of my stitches. So I was sitting there, I remember, oh God, I was so tired. Do you know, actually, that was probably my lowest point since having her. And then everything got better. That night was horrible. I felt so lonely. You could hear all the other babies crying on the ward. And as soon as one cries, it sets off another. And you're like, oh, please don't. There's another mother, bless her, crying. You know, probably, I don't know, she was just really down. Nobody was checking on her. Another one was being sick. And it was just not a nice environment. So I went through all the pain. I got up, I got myself dressed, I showed them I could change her nappy and look after her. You have to show them that there's no problem with your kidneys and you can go to the bathroom and stuff. And it's so funny. They actually said to me, "Oh, if you want to take a shower," I'm thinking, I can just about stand. I'm not. How can I have a shower? I've got stitches. Like I can't even sit down by myself, you know. But nonetheless, I just made sure that we were, by hook or crook, I was getting out of that hospital. So we left Thursday evening.
So
we
you'd
brought
had her on the
home the very
Wednesday
next day.
afternoon, and you came home Thursday evening.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, that is very soon.
I would have been worse if I stayed there. Honestly, I was looked after better at home with my husband than I was being looked after.
Oh, definitely. And then so bringing her home and getting used to this new person in your life, in your home, but with both of you, how was that?
Well, I remember first thing we did. So we did a little ceremonial things that we have. So my husband, bless him, like did our aarti, you know, did the candle and welcomed us into the house. And we did the kumkum pagla. So we did the vermilion footsteps for her and I. And we came in, we popped in the sleepy head and put her down on the coffee table. And then we both sat down on the sofa in front of the coffee table. We looked at her, we looked at each other, and we were like, what do we do now? How do we know what to do? It's like, oh, I remember Vips had tears in his eyes and he kissed me on the forehead and he said, I never want anything from you ever again. Something I still hold against him till today. But I was like, I don't know, I guess we just let her sleep if she wants to sleep.
Well, it is a bit of trial and error because you can read all the manuals, you can do it, but that baby might not be what they're explaining to you in the book, is it?
We just trusted she would tell us what she wanted.
They do. They definitely
do. And then we went upstairs, obviously thinking, I was like, well, I could sleep. So we went up with her upstairs in the sleepy head. And, you know, thinking, well, this is what the book says, so it must be, it just must be fine, right? So we pop her into the next to me cot, and lie down, turn off the lights, and I kid you not, within the space of 15 seconds, and I'm like, oh my god, isn't she supposed to sleep? I remember we used that word a lot, supposed to. Isn't she supposed to this and supposed to that? And yeah, I think it was about 3 days, and we were like, just chuck the book and we'll just go with our instinct.
Well, I remember with my first one, my husband, you know, Viraj was very good. He was your textbook baby. He was born on the day he was meant to be born. He fed every 4 hours, slept, did everything he was meant to do. So the first night, 4 hours go, and he's woken up, I fed him or whatever. We go back to sleep, another 4 hours, and so I was like, well, what's happening? Is this normal? Is this what he's going to be doing now? I went, yeah, this is normal. I went, oh, so he doesn't sleep through the night? I went, no.
Wow. Not until he's 12.
I was like, maybe you want to go sleep next door if you've got to go to work tomorrow. He's like, yeah, I think I better because I need my sleep. We're like, bye.
Oh god, generational differences as well. I've got to say, like, things have changed as time goes on quite a lot.
I mean, he was very good, very involved, and always there and helpful. But it was just that shock, I think, of, is this what happens? From
it is a shock. Do you know what? She didn't even. We figured we can't put her in the next to me cot. In fact, we couldn't even put her down in the sleepy head. She would not sleep, and we also figured out she doesn't like darkness. Which makes sense because in the womb they still get a little bit of light. So I have a Himalayan salt lamp, and so we basically put that in the corner, which actually gives a really nice glow, and that really helped. Also, basically, the first 5 nights she spent on my chest, sleeping on me. Basically, that's the only way she would settle. So that's how I basically slept sitting up for 5 days, but I would take it.
But you do what you have to do.
I could have slept standing up. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I've got to say, it's hit and miss as to what support you get. Speaking to my NCT friends, when you get community midwife, and of course because of COVID, they don't come home. You have to go see them and stuff. On day 3, I think it is, and day 5. It's mixed as to what support you get. Mine were not supportive. They were actually very judgmental, and because of my C-section, I mean, think about it, day 3, I shouldn't even be out of bed. I had to go for my appointment, and I told them on the phone. They said, no, your husband can't come. So I said, okay, well, he's going to have to carry the baby to the door because I don't feel safe walking around having had stitches 3 days ago, carrying a baby, right? You're just still getting used to carrying a baby, let alone when you don't trust your body. So she said, okay. And then when we actually got to the door and Vip was handing her over, we got inside. She actually said to me, so why is it you can't carry your own baby?
Oh.
And I was like, I know. I was like, well, first of all, I've just given birth. Secondly, I have had a C-section. Then it seemed to be okay. But it's like, there could be a million different reasons, like I still had sciatica. Just because your pregnancy has suddenly finished, it doesn't mean the symptoms have just gone. I still had loads of water retention in my ankles and my legs. I still had, aside from the stitches, I still had sciatica from the pregnancy that was still ongoing. I still had pins and needles going on, that I used to have. I had a bit of carpal tunnel during pregnancy. That hadn't subsided, so my fingers were numb. And it's like, you shouldn't be asking a new mother that. If somebody's asking you for help, there's a reason for it.
I think maybe everybody was at a heightened level because of COVID, perhaps. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. But there are midwives out there that aren't supportive and are judgmental. I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
and it's very emotional when you're a new mum and you've just given birth. You want somebody just to be able to say, it's okay. It's all right.
You want somebody to connect with you, basically. And I understand that obviously she wasn't trying to intentionally make me feel that. Of course not. But you can't just be the job. You have to be a person. You have to really empathize with how somebody might be feeling. Like there's postpartum depression to think about and stuff like that
absolutely.
As well. And I was out of it. I hadn't had any sleep. I was completely out of it. Day 5 when we went, that turned into a bit of a nightmare because again she kind of scared me quite a bit because she was like, oh my god, like your baby is glowing like she's she's jaundice. And I was like, okay. And of course, we had noticed Sanvi had, because when she left hospital, she wasn't
Mm.
that yellow, shall we say. But it can build
Yes.
sometimes in a few days
Yep.
after birth. And then it kind of
Mm.
subsides as well. You know, it peaks normally around day 5 and then it
Yeah.
goes down, especially with breastfeeding. So, yeah, but she was scaring me a little bit because she was like, "Oh my God, she should be in hospital having treatment and all of this." And I'm going, "Wow, really?" So we went straight from a routine appointment to hospital and came back 8 hours later. So the first week and days was not
Mm.
fun. But yeah, thereafter things started to kind of like fit in place. One of the biggest things, I'll be honest, is just trusting your instincts.
Very
Like
much.
both Ips and I.
Very much. And I think being confident about that, and not everybody is, but again, I guess in normal circumstances, you have your family around you to guide you, like, the mums or the mother in law. And
Yeah,
I guess you didn't have that initially, maybe over the phone or over a WhatsApp video or whatever, but somebody physically being there and just taking the baby and saying, it's okay. You get some
yeah,
sleep or you get some rest. I know you had Vipul there, but it is different, isn't it? That support network that you
yeah.
have.
It is.
But you
It
soon
is.
got into a routine. Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what got me through because of Vips is very happy that I did have a C-section because it gave him sole time with Sanvi. You know, for the first
Yeah.
2 weeks, he looked after me and her. So if I'm honest with you, I didn't feel the lack of support because I
Yeah.
had him. He was looking after the two of us so amazingly well. But then I, I had a conversation with him before, kind of going, just because I'm carrying the baby and going through the pregnancy doesn't mean I'm an expert and
Mm.
you're not. I'm going to trust my instincts. I wasn't born with this kind of like manual, and you
No.
weren't. So I'll trust mine, you trust yours. And we kind of made a pact to the moment she was born, first of all, she comes first, no
Yeah.
matter what. Any decision we make, it's in her best interest. Second thing is, we never say I told you so to each other, ever. We follow our instincts, and if we get it wrong, we get it wrong, but we support each other. We'll never say, I told you so, I was right. We
Mm.
don't do that.
That's a good teamwork. Definitely good teamwork.
Yeah.
So how?
But we're definitely in a great place. Like the first I'd say maybe 6 weeks, 3 months, I'd say 3 months, it takes quite a bit of getting used to with the cluster feeds and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah. So we're reaching the 1 year milestone. Tell me some, I guess, highs and lows of your 1 year with Sanvi.
do you know, it feels like, although it feels like the time's gone really fast, thinking about when she was born or when I was pregnant feels like a world
Mm.
away. You know, I can't even imagine my life without her. Um, let's talk about let's talk about the lows and end on the highs. There aren't many. I think it's just a case of it doesn't matter what somebody tells you, and if I'm honest with you, we weren't well prepared. There wasn't a lot people told us. They told us the basic stuff, but I think sometimes you forget the little things. You know, like there's so much that happens during those first few months that you can't remember all the details. So we weren't necessarily told about little things like the cluster feed, you know, where you feel like you will never sleep ever again. And you just feel like, especially if you choose to
Yes.
breastfeed, you just basically feel like you're a milking
Hmm.
cow, you know, like that is your job just to sit there. So there were the lows were just kind of like the lack of sleep in the
Mm.
beginning. And oh God, it's amazing what sleep deprivation can do to you. Um, there's the uncertainty, just the being afraid of so much, you know, you don't know what's normal and what's not. So even when they spit up, oh God, I remember the first time she had quite bad reflux. The first time when she kind of threw up her milk, I actually was in tears. I was so upset because I just kept saying, I was so irrational. I just kept saying to Vips, I know how I feel when I throw up, so she must feel horrible. And, you know, and all of this. I was like, should we give her something? Because she's going to have a horrible taste. And oh my God, you become so irrational. Um, we went through, I literally would wake up at like 2 in the morning, wake Vips up going, what is it, Sandy? No, no, I need to go through. What happens if somebody breaks in? He's like, what? I'm like, what happens if somebody, what's our protocol? He's like, now, really? I was like, yes, I can't sleep. We need to go through what we would do, and you have to, because you think of every scenario, and you're smiling because you know what I'm talking about.
Yes. Yes, because it's just, it's difficult to explain, isn't it? Because there is this other person now in your life that you are responsible for and you have to protect. And
Yeah.
yes, you're right, any hour of the day.
And even when they cry, it makes something churn in your stomach.
Like,
So
what
to
is
think
wrong?
about
What have I
anything
done?
happening to them.
Why are you crying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So I would go through phases like that, kind of, no, we need to have a protocol. What do we do? Do you know what? Like, forget me. I think he's had a lot of loads because of.
So I intend on doing a podcast on dad, so don't worry. I'm going to have him on.
Oh God, you'll get loads from him. So yeah, other than that, are there many lows? Okay, one of the other things is probably when it came to weaning. One of the things that scares me the most, and other mums will absolutely know what I'm talking about, is just the amount of stories you hear about choking.
Yes.
and
That I
and
remember
things
being
like
really
that.
fearful about that, and my mum was there when we first weaned Viraj, my eldest, and I was like, no, you can't do that, you can't. And she gave him very, very soft rice, home cooked
Yeah,
soft rice, and
yeah,
it's almost like I didn't want to look. But she was in control. She knew what was going to happen. She knew what she was doing, and I was like, I can't watch this. What if he chokes? What if he chokes? But you're right. That is
yeah,
scary.
yeah. And we decided to go down the route of baby led because, of course, this is all
Yes.
newer, now. But we read, and we always said we'd do what's right for her, and that's supposed to be better for her in terms of learning about foods, her development, and being less fussy maybe with food in the
Well, I've got
future.
to tell you, on the baby led, when you came round and she sat there in her high chair and she had all her lunch, I think we were just all staring there, weren't we? Like, oh my God. And even after you'd gone.
She did kind of look around going, why is everyone watching
And
me?
even, weeks later, we were still talking about Sanvi and how she just picked up her food and how she just ate everything. I mean, Sunil was so impressed.
Cauliflower cheese fingers, that's one of her favourites.
And, the 20-year-old that we have, who's a very fussy eater, as you know, is like, did you see that baby? Did you see the way she ate? She polished off her plate and she didn't need a helping hand, Samir.
He really did get stick for that, didn't he?
But that is amazing.
She is a very, very confident touchwood eater. In fact, one of the things nursery have told me now that she's started nursery is that Sammy's a very good eater. If she gets a bit emotional, we just give her some food and she'll just...
No, not emotional eating. We don't want to go down that road.
She is. She's a girl after her dad's heart, I'm telling you. But yeah, so we did baby led, so of course choking hazards can be a little bit more, and I watch every so often. I will watch the videos just to make sure it's there, at the back of my mind. But yeah, that's kind of one of the little kind of like fears that you have. I can't say the lows aren't lows. They're anxieties that you have. Like nothing that I would change at all. I wouldn't even change one sleepless night. I wouldn't change one sleepless night, one reflux less. I just wouldn't, because it's all part and parcel of being her mom, and it's all part and parcel of getting to know her.
And that building you as a mum, you becoming that mum and her becoming that child.
Exactly. I mean, I haven't created her. She's kind of creating me, or this part of me, if that makes sense.
Absolutely it does.
It's one of the things that helped me decide, yes, I do, want to do this. I do want a baby. I do want to bring another human into the world. That's just the interesting thing for me and Vips. It's never been we want a baby. It's we want to nurture another human being, and one of the things was I'd always looked forward to this, and she hasn't let me down. I thought it would teach me more about myself, and she really has. She's really taught me so much about myself, and I'm in awe of her every single day. Like, to say, the world will say we created her, but that's so not. That's so not. She chose us. She chose.
But it's amazing, isn't it? And I was going to say to you, have you lived up to the expectation? Because there are expectations of what parenthood will be like, or motherhood, or
It's so different to what I imagined, and it's not just because of I don't know. I think I had an open mind. I didn't have a picture of this is what it will be like. In fact, I couldn't picture it. Yeah, maybe I saw myself sipping lattes every now and then, but lockdown
that
took care
will
of that.
come. Don't you worry. But you know, like your sister already had two before you had
Mm,
Sanvi, so I guess maybe you've seen your nieces grow up, and you've seen your sister go through.
yeah,
Was there any picture you'd conjured up there of what it would be like for when you have a child?
I imagined it to be very
Hmm.
hectic. I imagined it. I could only really see scary stuff like, oh my God, I'm never going to sleep. Oh my God, I'm never going to get to have a hot cup of coffee. And, I'm never going to get to do this. And it's going to be so crazy hectic. When she came along, I kind of thought, let's just go into this eyes wide open and just take things as they come. And yes, it's hectic at times. And, I have learnt to eat and drink standing up during the first few months. But it's part of the
Oh, it
fun.
is.
Why do people go backpacking around the
Yeah.
world? They have to stay in, crappy places and, like eat dodgy food and stuff like that. But you do it because it's exhilarating. You do it because it's fun. You do it because it teaches you about yourself.
Yes.
This is no
Yeah.
different. You have to accept it all as one because if it was just, do you know how I would describe it? Motherhood for me, if I had to describe it, I would say it's like, the Smiler roller coaster at Alton
Yep.
Towers, right? It's like not going on the Smile, giving a brochure of being given a brochure, going, okay, this is a Smiler roller coaster. It's got 14 loops, and you're like 14 loops. Well, I can't because I hate
No, I
roller
don't
coasters.
like them
Anyway,
either.
I can do I can do this. It's fine. Very different to actually being
Oh
on the
God,
roller
yeah.
coaster, going through each of those 14.
That's why I'd never do it.
It doesn't Right. It doesn't matter how many times you stand at the bottom watching it going round, building up the strength, going, I can do this. Being on it, totally different. That's how I would
Oh,
describe it.
it's a beautiful way of describing motherhood. I mean, they do say it's a
And
roller coaster ride, but it's
the only difference is Kia you usually puke up mostly at the start, and on the roller coaster you puke up at the end. Not much difference. Um, the highs definitely outweigh it.
oh, definitely, yes.
I get it now. When people describe it as it's the hardest thing you'll ever do, but the most
Yes.
rewarding. I get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it. It's relentless. In one word, it's relentless. And although Vips and I are very much a team, and he really does do everything he possibly can, there's always that little bit more that a mother has to
Yep.
do. That even though your partners will want to help, they
Mm.
can't.
And I've got to say, a mother of a 23-year-old and a 20-year-old, that still that rule I say would still apply. There's something about being a mother compared to being a father. There is
Yes.
there's that little extra, isn't it? Just that little extra thing, and it's not necessarily a thing that you can pinpoint, but
No.
as a mother
Yeah,
inside
exactly.
you that it's just different. I mean,
Yeah.
we still will have conversations like the four of us around a table, and I'll get it, and Dad won't get it, and I'll look at him, and he'll be going, "What?" And I'll be going, "It's okay." Or the boys will say, "Dad, it doesn't go like that," or "No, like Mum got it. Mum just got it," And you'll have those moments. You will have those moments. But it's great because, I mean, the bond is there between your daughter and your husband, as there is with my boys and their
Oh,
father.
definitely. She wants him for the fun times.
Yes.
She wants him for the play, and I'm glad though. I want them to have a really really strong bond, and I think every daughter should have a little special place in her heart for a dad. And I love it. I'm not kind of insecure about it or like, oh no, she needs to be closer to me. I want them to have a great relationship. I wouldn't even
I
mind if
think I've lost you.
there you go. I wouldn't even mind if she prefers him in any way because
Well,
I am the one who looks after her every day, all the
Yeah.
time.
And it's
So,
not a competition, is
you know,
it? It's not a competition. You are
no,
both,
we
well,
bring different
it's those two
things.
cells,
Yeah.
remember? As Vipul says,
Yes,
you both
yeah,
contributed.
absolutely, absolutely. And we both bring very, very different
Well, you
things.
do. You do,
Um,
absolutely. You were brought up differently. He was brought up differently. And the two of you come together to bring up Sanvi with all those, uh, what do you say, the nuggets of how you were brought up come
yeah, the
together,
different
the
dynamics.
dynamics, which is beautiful because that's what will make Sanvi be Sanvi, you know.
Yeah, yeah. She is just so quirky, and I'm sure every parent feels the same about their child. But this girl, oh my God, well, you met her from a very young age. She's just so quirky. I'm like, oh my God, where did you get this
But
personality from?
you will see
Um,
sometimes you'll be sitting there and you'll be going, oh my God, that's so you, Vipul. Or he might say, God, that is so you,
yeah,
Devi. Or the grandparents
totally,
will go, well, that's exactly what you used to do when you were little, you know. And you'll be like,
totally.
really? And they're like,
Yeah,
spitting image. That's carbon copy of you, you know. And
yeah.
it is very scary. But then that's the genetics that can be so strong, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I've learned a lot, kind of like over this year, and every day continue to learn. I've learned actually how strong I can be, how strong a woman can be when she
Hmm.
needs to. You think you've reached your limit, but actually the mind gives up before the body. There's a
Yeah.
saying, and it's true. When you need to, God, how strong you can be.
But that
It doesn't matter how.
that's
Sorry, go on.
because you know you have to protect somebody, you have to look after somebody, you are responsible for her, and you will do
Yeah.
anything. You will go out of your comfort zone to make sure that she is well protected.
Absolutely. Come rain or shine, no matter how ill
Yep.
I am or anything, doesn't matter. You don't even think about it. Like before this, like, you get a fever or something, or you're not feeling well, and you're like, oh, I just need some rest or I need to sleep. And now you just don't even think about it.
You
You're
have
like,
to get up, you
just
have
have
to
to,
show up and
yeah.
do.
And the other thing is you just learn to go with the flow. You don't sweat the small stuff how you
Mm.
used to.
Yes, definitely. So a year on, Sanvi has started nursery as you prepare to go back to work.
Yeah.
And how is
Yeah.
that all transitioning?
Like I haven't been working for a year.
You have, but that's a different job. That job you'll never be giving up.
Yeah, no, at least with this work, I get to sit down. Maybe have a hot cup of
Well, some
coffee.
people do say it's easier to go to work than to bring up your own children. I've heard that many a
Oh,
times.
God.
Yeah. But how is that all working out?
Yeah, so Sanvi settled into nursery brilliantly. Like, actually, within like 2, 3 days, like, she was within day two, she was having naps there, which meant she felt comfortable. She was eating from the first day, as we know, she's a
Oh,
good eater.
brilliant.
She doesn't like to take her mood out on food.
That's good.
Um,
That's a really good thing.
Yeah, she's doing really well. She's bonding with the carers there. We kind of get a report on how she's doing and little photos and stuff. We're now how many? She started at the start of May. Now it's been a month, coming up to a month now, and she doesn't cry when I drop her off. She doesn't cry when I go to pick her up. She quite enjoys it, and she only does a few half days. She doesn't do kind of full time. Um, but you know what? Within like literally her going after a week, we noticed a lot of difference in her development. She was more confident in groups of
Yes.
people, more chatty and
Mm.
sing-songy, and just more interactive, I'd say. Yeah, definitely a good move for her. It was the right move for her, the right age for her. We waited until she was about 10 months,
Yes.
and it was evident that that was the right time because I felt like I wasn't able to give her enough stimulation at home.
Oh, don't kick
I would,
yourself about that one because I have seen the videos that you sent me and I have seen the things that you do with her. Now, if she didn't have stimulation, I don't know what that was.
I would actually break up the day. It's like a lesson plan, but then that's me, right? I like things organized. So it would be a case that we'd have rhyme time, we'd have silly play, would have more development stuff and things
But
like
those
that.
things you would have
But
gone
it
out
still got to the
for.
point.
If it wasn't for COVID, you would
Yeah,
have gone to those different toddler groups. But you made that happen in the home. So remember, what
Yeah.
she is, what you're seeing is what you've created and given her in those 9 months of being at home.
Do you know, it's so difficult for me to see it that way. Like,
Yeah.
even when people think, I don't even think of it as I created her. No, I gave her the environment. She did it herself. She created her own body. And do you know what I mean? That's how I see it. I don't see it as I created her. I just gave her what she needed and she's done it all herself.
Yes, you facilitated the environment,
Yeah, but I
the
see what you're
stimulation,
saying. Yeah.
and you mustn't forget that, because, you know, again, it's nature and nurture, isn't it? Right?
Yes,
And it's
yeah.
unfortunately, she was born in the era that she's been born in, where she wasn't able to have that social interaction and everything, but the stimulation you've given her at home, and now she's gone out and she's embracing that, and the social aspect is brilliant. Absolutely.
I tell you what, she's cottoned on to video calls. If I gave her my phone, I'm sure she could dial you.
Oh, I look forward to that. And I'm sure the next time I see her, you know, we'll notice such a difference. I saw it in fact, the last set of videos you sent. You know, she was so like there. She was dancing away and singing, and you know, it was just brilliant. And I've been so grateful that you've done that over the year, that I've been able to watch her grow, and you know.
Yeah, it actually is like you've actually seen her grow, haven't you? It's not a case of, well, here she was newborn and now here she is like a little madam. Like,
and we enjoy watching them. I mean, I'll put them on, and Samir and I will watch them, and you think, oh, she's so cute, she's so cute. And
the latest one is if you ask her if she's naughty and she shakes her head. She's learned how to shake.
But it'd be amazing what they'll pick up from nursery and all the different things. But it's a great stimulation environment for them. And how are you doing with preparing to go back to work, and how do you feel about that?
Yeah, so again, Vips had said I was due to start back, or I am just due to start back in June. So Vips said, you know what, let's send her to nursery from May. One, so she can get used to it while you're still at home, but two, so you actually get some time to yourself. Because to say I've had a year off, I haven't actually had any time to myself whatsoever.
You wouldn't have. Not with a newborn.
In fact, I calculated that in May, even with her going to nursery, in the entire year of mat leave, I would get 6 days to myself. That's what we calculated it. But then I had keep in touch days with work. Oh. So I didn't quite get that. But I probably had through May 3 full days. Now, it doesn't sound like much, but new moms will get this. They'll be like, oh my God, 3 full days. Like, you could change the world. Totally. Because that's another thing I've learned as a mom. Like, oh, if I thought I could manage time before, oh my God. Give me half an hour now and I can put the world to rights. That and multitasking. Like, I can multitask like I've got 6 arms. Like,
but just that time to yourself, I mean, that's almost alien as well, isn't it? So you drop them off.
It really is.
Great. I can get so much done.
I came home. I didn't know what to do with myself. I stood in the living room and I was like, well, my chores are all done because I usually stay on top of it. What do I do? And I actually missed her. I thought, Devi, this is really sad. You need to actually do something.
Right.
So what I did is made a cup of coffee, put on something on the TV and just clock watched until I could go back.
But that's okay. That's okay. Sometimes you just need to do that. But it's just nice to have that me time.
Yeah, I got into the swing of it, and what it gave me the ability to do is I'd go to the gym, I'd come back and do other bits around the house, I could get dinner ready for her. What it meant is I think you know when I'm saying, like, you basically develop an inability to sit and do nothing after you've had a child. You just can't sit and do nothing. It's just not in you anymore. But what I found is I was able to do things that relaxed rather than multitasking, and it was just really nice. And if anything, it gave me just that few hours meant that I then really looked forward to going and picking her up.
Oh, you know, it's lovely, isn't it? That smile that you get at the other end when you pick them up, but it's like, oh my God, I've really missed you. You know, they've missed you as well, and it's such a lovely feeling. But She's
it
had a
really
good
is.
time. You've had time to do whatever you need to. And it's quite healthy coming back together.
Yeah, definitely. And having those keep in touch days with work as well have really helped, because I don't feel like I'm just suddenly like jumping straight in. My work are really, really good, and they're really understanding. So I've had that kind of like easing in of bits of work, and now I'll kind of like start back in June properly.
And
So yeah,
will you be going into,
I'm looking
will you
forward
be
to
going
it.
back into an office, or you'll still be able to work from home?
I'll be working remotely,
Oh, that's
luckily.
good.
Yeah. So it's not a big change to the
Yeah.
system, you know. So yeah, working remotely, I think it's a nice way of being eased into
Yes,
it.
definitely.
And yeah, it's just it's going to be weird. It's going to be strange, because I won't really be around her for quite a chunk of time. Um, yeah, but I think it will be good for her. It'll be good for her to become a bit more independent.
Yes. And you will see that. You will see that very quickly. And you'll be kind of going, oh, well, I don't need to do this anymore. Or, oh, she's doing it by herself. You'll almost feel like redundant, in little ways.
I know, I'm waiting until she knows how to use a steam cooker.
Well, hang on, that's going a bit far, but...
I don't know. Have you met this generation of kids?
No, actually, you're right. It might be that...
She knows how to turn the TV on, and she's like 10 months. Like, at 10 months, she was like getting the remote control, pressing the buttons.
Yep, they're pretty savvy with all that, aren't they? So if you could give 3 golden nuggets to a new mum, what would they be?
A pregnant mum or a new mum? Because those are
No,
very
no,
different
a
parts
new
of the
mum
journey.
from when the baby is born, in that first year of motherhood.
Enjoy the moment and be grateful for it. Every moment. Live in the now.
Yeah.
So don't kind of think ahead. Just enjoy every moment, every day. Take it as it comes. Just be grateful for it and just enjoy it, because looking back, you won't remember the sleepless nights, and you won't remember maybe you felt a bit low. You'll remember all those positive things. You remember the smiles. In fact, one thing I did is I did the baby casts of her hands and feet. So I did that 2 weeks. I did it at 3 months and then 6 months, and we'll do it at a year, because that's amazing to look back on, something physical, rather than just photos. Another thing I did is I made her a bump to baby book anyway, so everything recorded, photos and everything. But I also did the same. I made sure I took photos of her, if not every day. Who are we kidding? They were every day, but also weekly. I'd not just take pictures, but I'd just in kind of one note, just make a note of the key things that happened that week. Whether it was that she had colic, or we had sleepless nights, or whether it was the first time she did tummy time. And actually, what I'm now in the process of doing, very slowly, is creating a 0 to 6 month album for her, which has week by week. So it's got photos and it's got the notes and stuff of what happened.
That's beautiful.
Do you know what? It's so time consuming, but it's worth it, because even now, when I've had this project going for like a couple of months, but even now when I go back during the first pages or go back on the notes that I made, I'm like, oh yeah, oh my god, that's when she did that. That's really early on, and those are the little things that you wouldn't remember, when you go forward. And it's so precious that I remembered to do that at the time. And sometimes it's just remembering. Like every Sunday, I'll kind of go, oh wait, let me just make a note. What's happened this week? And it's actually really quick to do. So I'd say savor the moments if you've got time. Just when you're sitting there maybe, or you're doing something, just kind of make a quick note, just one day a week on every Sunday or something, of what's happened that week. That will be one thing. Second thing would be just trust your instincts. And the same for dads. Trust your instincts. You created this life. You've had this life inside you for so long. You have a connection that is out of this world.
Yes, absolutely.
You just need to trust that. You know what your child needs, and they trust you implicitly, So you just need to trust yourself and trust your instincts. You will always make the right decision for your baby.
Yeah, I'd agree with that one.
And let's see, third one. Okay, yeah, this was a big one for me. I'm not going to say ignore, but take magazines and books and movies and stuff with a pinch of salt. because that's not reality. You're living the reality.
Absolutely, you are. I mean, that it's great to read all that, but it's horses for courses, as they say, and very different for each person. You can't.
And hey, nobody puts the tears on Facebook.
No, absolutely. There's no function.
You're only ever going to see, the good
things.
things. Nobody talks about the tough stuff and kind of like how you're feeling, you know. So I would just say, just don't put pressure on yourself. Like, motherhood is so unique for every single person. It's as unique as you are, you know. So it's different for everybody. Just because somebody does it a way or feels a certain way doesn't mean you have to.
Oh, that's right.
So just write your own story. Like,
Well, from what I've seen over the year, I think you've been on a great journey. You've so thoroughly embraced motherhood. Just from seeing you, seeing Sanvi, seeing the videos, talking to you, and it's just been so beautiful to watch. And that every moment of your child's life is important, but this first year, it's been so nice that you've been able to come on and talk about it in such a positive way. And it's not always a positive experience for everybody, like we've just said, but it's what you make of it.
Oh, if anybody wants to hear the tears, and I can give you an hour worth of that as well if you want. But the point is that that's not the stuff that you remember. For every tear, for every sleepless night, you'll have more smiles and tears of joy.
It is.
You know?
It is, and it's an incredible journey. It's an incredible journey, and I look forward to following your journey.
It's been, hey, I'm just as surprised as anyone. Like, thinking back to that girl who was like holding a baby like a football far away. Like, honestly, like, I did not think this is the kind of mother I would be. But isn't that the joy? Isn't that the whole purpose of life? You just don't know what you're capable of and how you'll surprise yourself.
Take this podcast, for instance. I mean, I never thought I'd be doing a podcast. And my eldest and one of his friends were like, "Come on, you've got to do this." And I'm like, "Nope, this is way out of my comfort zone." And it took me a while, and I did the first one, and then I didn't do another one for a while, and then I did the second one, and then I really am getting into it now. Like, I've done this will be my fourth one, and I'm so enjoying it. After each one, Virat will say to me, "How was it, Mum? Did you enjoy it?" And I'm like, you know what? I really did. Because every person and every mother I speak to has had a completely different experience, but yours was a special one for me as well, because it's that first year. Other mums I've spoken to have years of experience, but this first year is a very important year for a mum, I think, because
and one that you've been a part of.
I have, yes, and that's very special as well. So I look forward to watching my niece grow up, definitely. And thank you so much for coming on today and talking about your first year with Sanvi. Thank you so much. It's been great having you on.
It was my absolute pleasure.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, and I'll see you very soon.
Hope to see you soon. Bye.